really we need to start. I see really very nice gathering here. Thanks a lot that you came, despite the fact that still Green Deal is discussed in the plenary. It was some kind of challenge for us how to manage with that new development here in the plenary. So first of all, really, I'm very grateful that you agreed to come to our invitation to this forum, which informal forum, which we are starting to organize here, with very intriguing title, Forum of the Friends of Europe and Russia. And I will tell you why we are trying to have such a forum. But before that, I'm very happy that we have really very good team here with their names. It does not mean that all others will not speak. We have really quite a free discussion, but we ask several people to prepare their statements. And I am very happy that really we have two prominent Russian experts, Russian citizens, Russian politicians, whatever Lila Shevtsova is an expert on everything. Expert on everything in Russia. Vladimir, no. But Vladimir Milov, we now also is expert on almost everything. Starting from energy, we remember corruption, whatever. Future developments, democracy, and so on and so on. So I'm very happy that they are here. We know each other, but this gathering is really an important one. And I will not try to introduce everybody else. You see some familiar faces from European Parliament, Sergei Logodinsky and Adam Belan, and we have some other members like Michael Galler, Joseph Solekas, Bernard Guetta, maybe I forgot somebody, but we have also Martin Center, Tommy and Roland, and other prominent think tankers and embassies and so on and so on. So thanks a lot, really. I will try to be very brief because I learned from my fresh experience in this parliament that at least what is working here is bureaucracy, which will kick us out here at 4:30. So everything else is not very clear, but that part is very clear. So we shall try to have really. I would ask not just to make statements, but to react, to have a dialogue, to have a discussion. And I will say just a few words why we decided, and what was my initiative with my team, with my colleagues, why we decided to have also such kind of forum. Because first of all, when I came here with the new parliament, I was a little bit surprised at such an important topic like Eastern Partnership, and besides that, Russia, which is in some way very much connected, at least in our thinking, in our strategic view, has very limited, very little discussions, very limited, ideas. What are we going to do? What's our views? The views can be different, but we are not discussing. So my wish was really to try to find a way how to bring those topics closer to this, house, closer to this, what is called bubble, really to have possibilities to think about what is our view, what we want to see, how things can develop, and even notice what is happening now, Normandy, not Normandy, but also what can happen during the next decades. That's my view, that it's very important for us also to have possibility to look a little bit into longer term perspective. And so that's why we started one forum on Neighborhood East. It had two good gatherings. We were, in some way encouraged that really some of those topics there are people who want to discuss them. Thanks a lot that you came to those discussions. And now we are starting this another forum, on which we call, for time being, as Forum of the Friends of Europe and Russia. why we are, why we want to talk and what we want to talk. Of course, as I said, there is too little discussions about future of Russia. That is why we need some kind of forum. But besides that, of course, we understand that topic of Russia, topic of long-term, developments in Russia, is really not only now is important, it's always important, but it's becoming more and more important. And I can joke that now we can be maybe in some way grateful to President Macron that he made this topic even more, interesting. He made it more actual, and that is why also we are here. Of course, I will be very brief and open. If you read our papers, which we present in our brochure, in our non-paper, you will see that in general we do not agree with an idea of President Macron that there is a need to have unconditional dialogue with, if I can make it more simple, unconditional dialogue with Mr. Putin to try to bring him back to Western community as quickly as possible because of China and so on. We have a little bit different or different approach, and that is why we are starting also this forum. And our view starts from very clear question, which perhaps is a basic question. Do we believe that Russia at some time, not now, not today, not tomorrow, maybe not during Putin time, but do we believe that Russia can become again a democratic country? If we do not believe, then of course we need to think about how to accommodate ourselves to this, undemocratic and more aggressive Russia. And that is perhaps where we are different from President Macron. Because in my deep belief, I believe that Russia at some time, I don't know when, I hope that I still will be able to see it during my lifetime, that Russia will be able to transform itself back to democratic and European type development. It will take time, it's not so easy, but the question then, if we believe into that, the question is very simple. What we in the West need to do, what kind of strategy we need to have in order to assist such kind of Russian transformation? That's a major question. And that is what we're trying to put into our non-paper. And when we're looking from that point of view, then unconditional dialogue from, with Putin, for me it looks like really, pushing possible developments in Russia into wrong direction. What we are trying to say in our non-paper, what kind of strategy would be needed, really, I will describe in a very simple way. We need to have much more clear strategy, first of all, long-term strategy, and it should include very clear chapter. Now we have, at least when we are talking about Russia in the Baltics, till now, our history and our some kind of feelings and what we are afraid. So usually we were talking till now about two chapters. One chapter was how to deter, aggressive Russian, behavior. So we have NATO, we have sanctions. That's good. Second chapter usually was how to contain Russian, hybrid, attacks or whatever. How not to allow them to interfere into our elections and political systems. So those two chapters are very much needed. I am not saying that they are not valuable or nothing against that. But we need to have the third chapter, which I call transformation chapter. How the Western community, how EU and the whole West can assist Russian transformation back to democratic and European type of development. And here we have two major points. Again, nothing very specific, nothing incredible. One point is very simple. That is why we're talking about Eastern Partnership in a broader sense. Not only how to help, we have in mind not only how to help Ukrainian or Georgian, success to be built, but we see really that especially Ukrainian success in the longer term would have a major impact as an example to ordinary Russian people to ask very simple questions to their, political leadership, to their, regime. Why, if Ukraine is moving, closer to Europe, why is Ukraine is democratic and is becoming a successful country, why Russia cannot follow the same path? I do not believe that Russia is, not able to live with democracy. It will take time, but we believe that Russia can live also with democracy. And we were very much encouraged by a statement of Joseph Borrell during his hearing in AFET, where exactly he repeated the same words. When we asked, so what would be, how Europe can assist Russia, to develop itself into a more democratic country, Borrell's answer was, let's build belt of successful countries, in between of EU and Russia. And last point, what we believe could be of a help in that, transformation chapter is, of course, EU strategic vision, which we need to put now, as quickly as possible. What kind of relationship could be established in between of EU and Russia when Russia will come back to democratic and European type of development? And we need to talk about very practical relationship, like visa-free, free trade. I don't know what else can be put on the table, but that would be again very clear signal to ordinary Russian people what they are losing when they, still are not able with the regime which they have now to become a democratic and European type of country. I think that message, again, would be very, very strong and very powerful. And that is why, we put those several ideas, and that is why we are very happy that we have this forum. And now I give the floor to my colleague Vladimir Milov to say a few words about some of those ideas or whatever. How do you see the whole possible Russian development?
Thank you very much, Andres, and it's great to be here among friends. And it's also great to know that there are people in Europe, many people in Europe, who understand the European aspirations of Russians and do not just write us off as some Asian dictatorship, which will always be like that. I have to say that what is wrong with the approach of folks like the French President Emmanuel Macron, who attempts just another attempt to reset relations with Putin right now. I think the big strategic mistake is that those Western leaders who say that it's inevitable that we will have to build ties with Putin's regime is because he's strong and legitimate. And this is the message that Russian propaganda has been trying very hard to spread all over the world, that Putin has the solid backing of the Russian people, and you should take it or leave it. I mean, you will have to deal with him because there's this great country behind his back lining up in support. Now, I can tell you one thing. I used to spend a month in jail this August as one of the organizers of the Moscow protests. And I haven't met, during these 30 days in custody, I haven't met a single person, neither from the police nor from the apolitical inmates who were also there, who ever said just one word is in support of Vladimir Putin. When those folks found out who I am and why I'm sitting here for, they actually brought me all kinds of bonuses you can imagine to this situation. Like, for example, under the Russian rules of detention, it's only allowed to take a shower once in 7 days. Now, the police folks were approaching me not every evening, but like once in 2 or 3 days and saying, Milov, want to take a shower? Come on. So I got all the preferential treatment because I'm the person who opposes Vladimir Putin. And actually, these police folks were approaching me and saying, when you will be in government, see this like hole in the wall, you will have to fix that. Now, seriously, right? And more seriously, if you take a look at what's happening politically in Russia at the moment, a couple of weeks ago, we had a congress of the ruling dominating party, pro-Putin's party, United Russia. You know what was the main topic of discussion there? The main topic was United Russia to save their positions in power. It used to put forward at the past regional and local elections that we had in September, it used to put forward its candidates not under the name of United Russia candidates, but dressed up as independents, who were literally threatening to sue people who would try to associate them with United Russia. They said, no, we have nothing to do with United Russian Party. So the main topic at the Congress was that it was not good to hide, and that we should go out in the open. And there was like this sort of very shy applause to that, because nobody really want to risk, because of the ratings of the party are so low that they understand that in a real contested race they can't win, which is why they keep banning all of us from running, and like nearly everybody, even remotely independent, was banned from the Moscow elections this summer. Still, despite this very fact, the incumbents, despite banning most, like 99% of relatively strong candidates, they still managed nearly to lose this election. They won majority in the Moscow city parliament only by a very narrow margin. And people voted for just technical candidates' names on the list simply because they didn't want to vote for the ruling party. If you just Google Russian regional news, what you see happening is that there are major protest rallies every day in many of the Russian regions, and they are growing by the day. On all sorts of failures of governance, be it economy, social issues, environment, the garbage crisis, which is raging across the country, or whatever, right? So, as a matter of fact, this is what I strongly advise you to pay attention to. Putin is not as strong as he is trying to portray himself. He faces a lot of challenges domestically. We're gonna have federal parliamentary elections in a couple of years' time, and there is a lot of media discussion about it, with some leaks, what is going on in the Kremlin, how they are preparing for it. Now, the problem for them, for Putin and his team, is that all they are attempting to do is maneuvering. How to dress up as somebody else, restore ability for parties to unite into electoral blocks, which are forbidden right now, and hide United Russia behind some other brand, or eliminate proportional system and only switch to majority districts, which are very expensive for independents to run, or all sorts of stuff like that, because they understand that they don't have appeal anymore, they don't have legitimacy with the Russian people, so they need to somehow maneuver through to still maintain the majority. If you take a look at the opinion polls, Andres, this is very important about whether Russia can be a democracy and what do Russians think. Now, there are two sides of the story. First, most of the objective data will tell you that Russians, the majority of our society, has very strong democratic instincts. They want to have a say in politics. They are extremely displeased by the fact that they have actually been deprived of any influence, of ability to influence the way they governed. For instance, since Putin abolished governors and mayoral elections in the past 15 years, we have continuous polling data by even pro-Kremlin pollsters, semi-independent pollsters, independent pollsters. They have all over these years have shown the same thing. About 2/3 of Russians wanted to restore direct mayoral and governor elections without any filters, and they were displeased with the system that Putin has introduced. And many of the recent discontent actually is sparked by the fact that there is no competition at the elections. There are problems, but they are not solved through open and competitive political process and debate. And I mean, there's so many objective data about that. Now, the flip side of the story is that, of course, this is true, that these democratic instincts are in a very raw shape. Because Russians obviously did not have a really good experience and lasting experience of democratic governance. And some attempts that we had are nearly forgotten because it's been 20 years since Putin is in power. There's this serious muscle atrophy, if you will, and significant effort is needed to re-engage the Russian people. This is actually what we in opposition are doing. But, I mean, it's anything, like elections, enormous protests, and all kinds of polling data you can imagine. This suggests one thing, that the country actually is tired of a system which is not interested in hearing the opinion of its citizens. It really wants to interpret democracy not like an ideological liberal concept, but democracy is a genuine desire of a people for their voices to be heard, for them to influence the way the country is governed, region is governed, city is governed, and actually this is what democracy is all about. So it's difficult. Lack of experience, the propaganda, some traditions basically are weighing in. That complicates a lot our work to bring Russia to a normal democratic pattern. But I mean, look, there will always be difficulties. What we see, though, is a clear pattern of how to overcome it. And for those of you who really watch in detail what's happening in Russia, I think it's pretty clear that the situation is shifting our way big time. So authorities have but to, hold the siege and keep their positions. They have nothing to offer. We had more than 11 years without economic growth, and the growth is not projected. If you just look at the federal budget for the next 3 years, which was just adopted, the government doesn't care about growth. It accumulates reserves in a rainy day fund, literally openly saying that we're preparing for another major crisis, so we need to have money at hand. Growth, we don't care about it. And Russian people don't like it. Obviously, economic situation is taking a toll, is one of the major failures of the current system. So I think here's a great opportunity for us, and essentially this is our work. This is the job of Russian Democrats to bring about change in the Russian politics. But I think it's extremely important for our friends internationally and in Europe in particular to be fully aware of that. Not to provide additional help, because Putin, he's doing this channel diplomacy, right? He comes back home and say, you got to support me because I'm friends with Macron, and he is one of the strongest global leaders. Then he comes to Macron and says, look, I have a strong backing at home, so you have to deal with me because, again, take it or leave it, right? We should realize that this is essentially a false game. I think what we also discussed with Andres earlier today is we need to produce some good reports, some good evidence about strategic weaknesses of Putin's regime. Economic weaknesses, social weaknesses, domestic political weaknesses, his major weaknesses in relations with China, which are deeply unequal, and obviously this is not a relation between Russia and China. It's essentially China coming and taking what it wants and then saying, thank you, I'll get busy with other things, right? Or Russia is trying to brag about its military power, but if you just scratch a bit and look what's beyond in there, you see that our defense industries are heavily leveraged with debt, are totally uncompetitive. The write-off of 1 trillion rubles in debt for state banks is being under discussion even as we speak right now. We're operating in Syria, but only from a safe distance, with strong efforts made for the rebels not to obtain surface-to-air missiles, and when they do and shoot down some aircraft, there's a huge outcry on Russian television. How come they got 1 or 2 surface-to-air missiles? We need to work harder to make sure it doesn't happen again. So, point is, equalizing Putin with leaders of the democratic world is fundamentally wrong. You just got to be aware that there are absolutely systemic strategic flows which makes Putin's Russia extremely weak. He wants to portray it looking strong, but that's just not true. And I think this awareness might significantly influence the thinking on the Western side, so that we do not fall anymore under illusions that a worthy, equal dialogue with Vladimir Putin, such as he is, might produce some positive results. But I think we should be aware of all these strategic weaknesses. We should talk to Putin exactly delivering this message like, look, the picture you're trying to portray of yourself is wrong. Your system is not sustainable, is not even supported by the Russians themselves. So, let's change the tone here a bit. I think this should be the message, and at the same time, we are trying real hard and doing very serious on-the-ground work and taking a lot of risks to make the democratic change happen inside Russia. So I think this is the way